Anyway, I am delighted to be here. Thank you all for coming. I am going to, and I wish you all a happy Thanksgiving tomorrow. I hope you all have a wonderful day and a wonderful weekend. I'm going to be reading a group of poems, all of which are in form. I'm going to read you a bunch of sestinas, and then I'm going to read you some villanelles, and then I'm going to read you a sonnet, and then I'm going to read you a guzzle. The sestinas I'm especially excited about reading tonight because they are a sort of, they're not exactly a series, but they're all about baboons. And I started this series many, many years ago by accident. My daughter and I were in Africa, and we were in Kenya, and we heard this story. And so I wrote it up when I got home. And that just started me off. A little while later, I read about a baboon liver transplant situation, and that brought on the second one. And I will tell you more as we go along. But I will start with these. I'll start with these, and if in the middle of it I decide that they're, too long and it's getting hard to hear, I will switch to some other shorter poems to give you a little breather. Okay, so here we go. The first one, which was published in 1993 in the little chapbook called The Papers Said, is called The Papers Said. In Kenya, they have 2 paved highways. Commuters throw garbage out the windows to baboons, so used to being fed this way. They wait at intervals like pets or trash cans. One day, a man threw out an orange he'd filled with chili powder just for the hell of it to see what would happen. It rolled in the red dust at the highway's edge because the man hated those fucking baboons, or whatever the word is in Swahili, the way they jerk off at the side of the road or show their disgusting red cans to each other. And this one, not especially orange, got picked up by one of those fuckers who pushed it into his mouth and bit down. The white man in the green car on the liquid red highway under the burning blue sky, or whatever the baboon word is for hellfire. The man in the green car went his way. Baboons scream, as only baboons can. The man felt merciful. No more living trash cans. He forgave his wife. As the sky turned the brilliant orange of an African sunset, he drove home. It gratified him to see the sides of the highway deserted, the entire baboon population driven away. For a while, he went out of his way to be nice to his wife and children. He let them watch American TV. On the weekend, he bought a 6-pack of orange pop, packed it in the car, and took them all for a ride along the highway. Of course, the baboons were back. He expected that. Baboon attacks, however, he did not expect, especially the way it seemed to recognize the green car, uncanny, the papers called it, hurled itself at the open window when an orange shape glistened briefly there and ripped the man's throat out. Call it whatever you like, poetic justice, but people aren't safe on the nation's highways, the papers said. So a sestina is a Spanish form. It's 6 stanzas long. It has 6 lines, and each line, the end word of each line in the first stanza repeats in a pattern down and through the poem. And then there's usually a coda at the end of 3 lines where all 6 words appear. In that same book, I published this next one, which is the baboon liver transplant poem. And in this poem, if you're old enough to remember Dallas, which aired on television from 1978 until 14 seasons. In the middle of it, in season 9, one of the characters who died in the previous season comes back to life, or was never dead, because his wife dreamt the entire prior season of the show. So anyway, a reference to that comes up in the poem. Baboon liver transplant poem. The male in the poem is the same character as in the papers said. By this time, his wife has certainly left him. His kids have kids of their own. Nobody can tell him where he picked up the virus. In Mombasa, it's easy to get whatever you want. The point is, he finally gets so sick, he needs a new liver. You know how great the demand is worldwide. Fortunately, the Americans are looking worldwide for someone to try out this brand new technique his grandkids have heard about on TV. Grandpa, what's a baboon liver transplant? He draws them a picture where the baboon attacks him on the highway, and it looks like Grandpa's a goner, easy. But he's so tough, he survives. He makes it look easy. Like Bobby, for instance, on worldwide TV, dreaming the entire prior season of Dallas. So here's our Lazarus in critical condition, kidneys functioning, heart okay, awake, and able to indicate where it hurts. In the liver, that is, after all, not his liver, but belongs to that same monkey or his brother who, easy as pie, ate his larynx out. He's learned where not to look a gift horse. Meanwhile, wide angle, they show on TV a troop of baboons with their scrambling kids walking into a sunset so red, it's an editorial comment. While the surgeon intones, this man is a hero. If we can make a baboon for human liver transplant work, thousands of people, including a lot of kids, could be saved. The whole thing makes the viewer uneasy. The story, of course, gets worldwide coverage. Outside the university hospital, where the operation takes place, and where an angry crowd is shouting, "Animals are not spare parts," there's a parking lot. It is 2 blocks wide. Women walk by in fur coats. Liver is on the cafeteria menu. After a month of relatively easy recovery, the patient has a massive stroke and dies. No kids saved this week. Where the American people stand on animal liver transplants isn't clear. The death of an innocent victim's not easy. On the other hand, there's widespread opposition in this country to treating the whole blessed world with kid gloves. So I think I will take you elsewhere for the moment and read you one of the villanelles, which is called Villanelle County. A villanelle is also a 6-stanza poem, 3 lines per stanza. It rhymes, and the first and third line repeat going down the poem. Villanelle County. Dreams is fled, like little kids that's run away. It don't much matter what he said this time or did. The kids is all afraid. I holler for 'em night and day. Dreams is fled, but dark ain't near so dread like morning with its bloody looking ray. It don't much matter what he said. Hurt, hurt, hurt is what we read on the gravestones we drove by yesterday. Dreams is fled from the bed where they's naturally born and bred to the cupboard where he puts his guns away. It don't much matter what he said or didn't never say since we was wed. I shut him up for good and all today. Dreams is fled. It don't much matter. What? He said. That poem comes from a period of time when my husband and I, Leonard and I, were living in South Carolina. Okay, so back to the sestinas. This one is called Baboon Bites Toddler at Fair, and it is a It comes from an article that I read in the Augusta, Georgia Chronicle when we were living in South Carolina. And I used a lot of what the article said and, changed certain things to make it work as a poem. So this is a sestina called Baboon Bites Toddler at Fair. Columbia County officials said Wednesday they will investigate the treatment and activities of several animals and scrutinize operations of the petting zoo after a family of a 17-month-old boy said the child was bitten by a baboon at the Columbia County Merchants Association's fall fair. Patrons are allowed to throw food to feed the fair's 2 baboons, but an official said on Wednesday that people are supposed to stay away from the baboons behind a 3-foot-tall fence 4 feet away from the animal's cage. Instead, she said, the father of the boy was holding him over the fence. It's a petting zoo, the father said. Don't call it a petting zoo if you don't want people to pet or feed the animals, as the fair advertises. No signs said not to let the boy lean over the fence on Wednesday, when other people were happily feeding the animals just before the boy was bitten on the hand by the baboon. The mother, speaking of the baboon, said it had gone kind of nuts, jumping around the zoo like it knew it had done something wrong. Other animals joined in. Officials said they would be looking into the fair's fair practices. The mother said she took the boy to the doctor late Wednesday. The doctor examined him and put the boy on antibiotics. Officials declared that the boy need not worry about rabies or viruses. The baboons are both perfectly healthy. The state vet confirmed this on Wednesday. An official suggested to the owner of the petting zoo that she move the fence back or post warning signs around the fairgrounds. Whereupon, the owner threatened to remove the animals from display altogether. A preliminary look at the petting zoo's animals revealed dismayingly that many of them had no water. The boy may have provoked a reaction of thirst, an official said, with his fair skin and saliva-wet baby hands. This same official said the baboons would be spot-checked unannounced periodically until the petting zoo closes, along with the rest of the fair, 2 weeks from this coming Wednesday. All animals in the petting zoo will be thoroughly inspected by Wednesday, a county official declared. We never want another little girl or boy to be bitten by a baboon at the annual Merchants Association's fall fair. Rules of the contest. A villanelle. Deadline is September 30. Postmark no later than midnight that date. Include a brief biography. 1 entry only, no age or other limit. Deadline is September 30. To ensure impartiality, list name, address, and phone number on separate sheet. Include a brief biography. Any degrees, honors, grants, please state. Deadline is September 30. Theme, mortality. Any form, any length. Include a brief biography. Tell why. Decision final, prize immediate. Deadline is September 30. Include a brief biography. So having written, 3 of these baboon sestinas, I decided recently that if I could write some more of them, I would have a nice little series for a chapbook. Well, I haven't written enough of them for that, but I did in recent months write a couple of more. So I will read those to you now. I hope they're not too long. I hope you can continue to concentrate. The first one is called Baboon Saloon. My old maid aunt had a face like a baboon, which isn't necessarily the reason she never married. There were proposals for men she didn't like. More often there were propositions, which she also turned down mostly. There was one grand affair, the details of which are none of your business. This isn't going to be easy, this business of writing yet another sestina about a baboon, especially given the end words of the poem: affair, business, like, down, baboon, married. The Middle English word baboon, meaning something like gargoyle, comes down to us from Old French babou, meaning muzzle or grimace, like the default setting on my old maid aunt's dog-like, unemployable face. Old maid is, of course, a term no longer used in business, family, poetry, or social circles. Single women are no longer so looked down upon the way they still are if they are a baboon. There are many middle-aged and elderly women these days, never married and perfectly happy. If we're lonely sometimes, that's our own affair. Baboons travel in troops of 10 or so to several hundred, a fairly wide range. Even one-on-one, though, they're not very likable. On safari once in Kenya, a baboon stole my married sister's sneakers from our half-concrete tent. We had a devil of a business getting them back. As a consequence, I can't say I'm much of a baboon fan. When they flash their eyelids or yawn to bare their intimidating teeth, it's downright unappealing. Males fight each other for females, but they also chase females down and punish them for straying into other men's affairs. There are 5 different kinds of baboon: yellow, chacma, Guinea, Hamadryas, sacred, and olive, Anubis, the last of which looks like the Egyptian god it's named for. He was married, of course, my aunt's lover. Baboons, according to the genealogy business, share with us 94% of our DNA profile. Worse, he was in show business, of which there is no business like. For like as the end word, see 3 lines down. My aunt didn't want to be married anyway, but she got tired, she said, of being an affair. She felt like she was in a baboon harem. First married wife, second wife mistress, also of her own affairs, it must be said. Third wife downtown, the My Gal Friday, just like in the movies. She opened a bar, my aunt, a business she called the Baboon Saloon, and she died laughing. And the last one is called Anubis, the Olive Baboon. And there are 2 references in this poem that you need to know. One is to John McEnroe, the tennis pro, who, as some of you may know, uses on and off the tennis court the phrase, "You can't be serious." And another one was, you have to be kidding, or something like that. I can't remember the second one so well. Anyway, "You can't be serious" is in this poem. And then there is a reference to Gilgamesh, the Sumerian epic poem, the oldest epic poem in the world, which predates Homer by like 2,000 years. It's really quite amazing. So there's a reference to that. And in the poem, Gilgamesh, who is a king of Yurok, has a bosom buddy named Enkidu who dies. So you need to know those 2 things. This is called Anubis, the Olive Baboon. The olive baboon has an alternate name, Anubis, taken from the name of the Egyptian god, depicted most often as a man with the head of a jackal, and known for the weighing of souls after death. If the heart of the soul is lighter than a feather, that soul will be admitted to heaven. If not, the soul is devoured by the goddess Amit, not ever to live again. The olive baboon acquired the name Anubis because its face, though surrounded by a feathery ruff, resembles that of a dog, as does that of the god, whose ancient role in the rituals of death is associated with the Egyptian jackal, still officially classified as a subspecies of the golden jackal, though Wikipedia calls it the Egyptian wolf. It's not a matter of life and death, whichever name the canine on the head of the god is given. The point of the whole thing is the feather. Galileo proved that in a vacuum, a feather falls at the same rate as a rock. I howled like a jackal when I saw the video. It seemed like only a god could produce such a miracle, or that you cannot be serious, as John McEnroe would say. How many nameless souls, Anubis, are falling forever in a vacuum of death? In Gilgamesh, Enkidu describes the underworld of death where the dead squat in darkness, covered in feathers, eating dirt, drinking clay, and where the name of king and exorcist and prophet counts for less than the jackal's snout. When Enkidu dies, Gilgamesh refuses to bury him, not able to face his death, until a maggot falls out of Enkidu's nose. God, what an image. Why does the olive baboon resemble a god more than any other species of baboon? In death, its skull is the same as theirs, is it not? Perhaps because it's the largest, most wide-ranging, feather-ruffed and gray-green handsome baboon there is, not black like the jackal head of Anubis, nor human from the neck down like its namesake. Death comes for the jackal as it does for the rest of us. A feather does not fall like a rock in the real world we live in. A baboon may have the name of a god, but it isn't one. All right, thank you for living through that. Now I will read you some shorter things, a couple of shorter things, and then I'll close. We all remember where we were on September 11th, 2001, but I'll bet very few of us remember where we were on September 11th, 2002. I was in New York, and there was a little ceremony down at the World Trade Center for those who had died. And I'm sure there were ceremonies also in Washington and in Pennsylvania. But anyway, this is a poem about September 11th, 2002, almost biblical. The wind was blowing so hard today. The sky bright blue again, but the air more humid. There were whitecaps in the harbor. It was Wednesday, a day like any other day, but no planes this morning flying overhead. The wind was blowing so hard today, a small fishing boat capsized in the bay, killing its owner, Victor Amesquita, his 3 companions injured. There were whitecaps in the harbor. It was Wednesday all day. The names lifted away even as they were spoken. It was almost biblical, Marion said. The wind was blowing so hard today, a tree limb fell on 13 New Jersey teenagers. A construction worker was knocked out by a piece of winged plywood. There were whitecaps in the harbor. It was Wednesday. Gusts were stronger than on any but 2 or 3 days a year. Damage was exceptionally widespread. The wind was blowing so hard today. There were whitecaps in the harbor, but at least it wasn't Tuesday. It was Wednesday. This last villanelle I'm going to read you was published in a magazine called Pequod way back. I was doing a poetry reading and this poem was new and I read it, and the editor of Pequod, Mark Rudman at the time, who is also a wonderful poet, asked me if he could have the poem for the next issue that was coming out, which was an issue of ekphrastic poems about works of art. And I was thrilled, of course, and I gave him the poem, and this is it. It's called Landscape Painting. I used to think the sun was going down. The light's ambiguous, so the time of day is not clear. Now I'm starting to believe it's really dawn. Because the picture's always been around, I never looked this carefully before. I used to think the sun was going down when actually the lights would be coming on in the two houses then, and no lights appear. So I'm starting to believe it's really dawn, and everyone's still sound asleep, though the sky's growing yellower and yellower. I used to think the sun was going down because the silence looks so utterly profound, nothing to break it but the birds and the stream's dark murmur. But I'm starting to believe it's really dawn. Ironic, isn't it? Death should be the reason. Young and melancholy, sure I'd live forever. I used to think the sun was going down. Now I'm starting to believe it's really dawn. I am a huge, lifelong fan of Edna St. Vincent Millay, who wrote a lot of sonnets. And this is one that I wrote in honor of her, called Not Nearly the Sonnet She'd Have Written Herself. Many of you probably know that she died at the bottom of the stairs. She fell down a flight of stairs in her home in Austerlitz, New York, and died. And there was a glass of wine on the stair beside her when she died. Not nearly the sonnet she'd have written herself. I went to college with Edna St. Vincent Millay, or not exactly. 50 years before, she lived in the room above me in the tower and threw herself for effect from the window bay, or threatened to, or so they say. She was nothing if not dramatic. Since that hour, many a difficult woman has followed the now or never dare of her great poems. They made our mothers and grandmothers free. We too have felt that pressure on the spine, her thrill of sex, self-pity, pain, and power, and mind. She runs like blood in the family. Fell down and died beside a glass of wine, or so they say. It isn't true, however. Last but not least is a little guzzle that I wrote because of a challenge to write a guzzle. A guzzle is an Arabic form. You will see that phrases repeat throughout the poem in each couplet. And then in the last couplet, the poet is supposed to name him or herself. In this country, there are no nightingales in this country. Bullfrogs grow as big as whales in this country. Once in the fields, we could lie all the way down. There used to be hills and dales in this country. We work hard, we eat, we sleep well, not at all. We manufacture tall tales in this country. Once there was hope. It had a sweetish odor. Gold outweighs truth on the scales in this country. Laurel, who did you think you were? Who are you? Mad Cassandra rants and rails in this country. May I just quickly close with a poem that I always finish with, which was written by my daughter when she was 5 years old. Next time you yell at me like that, I might run away from home, and that goes for Daddy too. If I run away from home, I'll leave a note saying where I'll be. Thank you. And thank you.
Okay, I'm going to rely primarily on my chat book that because I really don't feel it's so in progress anymore. I've got to the stage now where I'm pretty pleased with it. And I'll begin with this, the doggest days of August. And a quotation from Margaret Renkl in a New York Times essay she wrote, which said, "It's not true that living is easy. For no creature on earth is the living easy, not even in summertime." It's the doggest days of August. The woman from Nashville quotes Wordsworth, marvels at the seasonal brevity of splendor in the grass. She says our Oregon wildfire smoke finds its way into nostrils owned by Kentucky folk, sitting on front porches by the road that follows the holler down to Fraser Creek, Eagle Creek, and the Bledsoe coal mines, Stygian holes of bituminous to burn. We trade sky-bound black billows for the electric energy of gods. Pretend we don't know that this is how it goes. When summer temperatures rise and we beat the heat by burning coal to run air conditioners in nursing homes and hospitals, crowded with sweaty humans, pondering how many people it takes to make a pandemic or to drive animals to extinction. And I'll say it doesn't get any more cheerful than that one, so hold on. This is called How Can a Poor Man Stand Such Times and Live? Was a song perhaps you heard. It was written in 1929 by blind Alfred Reed, and it begins, Enrique's 40 Acres. The sweet and sour smell, onions, my favorites, Walla Walla sweets, roasting before rotting in July dirt and sun for too many weeks. Onions sweat in 120 degrees. Water beads on the bulb, evaporates, shrivels, leaves papery skin wrapped around soft, pale blisters, baked in record heat. Enrique plows them under again and again and again till soil and dead onions merge. The seed pods, too, they die, killing next year's crop, kicking hope in the butt. Crop insurance, too high to buy. Won't recompense this mess, leaving losses to eat until next spring, when Walla Walla heaps. And then we go to the west side of the mountains for a moment, the mighty Cascades in the distance, flatlands across the Skagit Delta, thousands of acres, corn stalks, no corn. Short yellowish greens to harvest, earless, naked, you might say, silage. Water runs short at low tide. Herons leave dry wetland muck and keep to the salt water. The land runs parched across the once misty Chinese landscape Tom Robbins knew. Before incessant, unexpected sunshine came to the valley of tulips, birds, and the Swinomish tribe. Swinomish tribe. So much beauty, landscapes. The painters adore the landscapes, hidden gardens, brick-lined courtyards, optimism and disbelief. Mhm. Ah. This is the Okanagan-Wenatchee National Fire, Okanagan-Wenatchee National Fire. It begins with a quotation from Okanagan County Sheriff Frank Rogers. He said it on CNN. He says, quote, "It was a hailstorm up there." Okanagan-Wenatchee National Fire. Our summer highway landscape smells like a dirty fireplace. Fried tractor tires, cattle hides roasting. It spreads charred, black mile upon mile. Barns, fences, sheds, and double wides. Where lightning struck the fat wood. Trees, brush, grass, dried by drought. Waterless brown needles and leaves, split gray fence posts, and paintless cowsheds. Once turned rust brown by countless summer suns, now they're sooty shadows of landlocked dreams. Across the Inland Empire, Upper Falls, Carlton, Carpenter Road, Tunk Block, Colquhoun Tarps, Wilburine, Stickpin, Cougar Creek, Highway 8, Sleepy Hollow, Saddle Lakes, Twist River, Graves Mountain, where ranches and animals used to be. Innocence, deer, elk, and bear. Helpless, goats, llamas, chickens. Trapped. 3 men, ages 31, 26, and 20. Well, okay, this isn't quite as heavy, but it's still there. Ladies and gentlemen, the amazing heat dome. Kindling hot, dry winds press my flesh. It's a real thing, but not a heat wave, something common like a new salon dew. That's so 20th century, darling. Now we have domes, heat domes. They squat, fat, flat, and wide, like Jabba the Hutt, squatting over 13 Western states. Hutt butt chunks up against the Rockies, Jabba bellies spilt over the Pacific coast. We live in the new little shop of horrors, our fevered heat dome Jabba hungry to keep forests and towns ablaze, raise Fahrenheit above memory, make babies and old ladies, kill groceries still in the dirt. So there we go. That's like I say, it's, by God, I'm going to start right now. I'm going to stop because Leopoldo knows that normally I alternate the heavy ones with the light ones. And there's a little bit of mirth that we can go home with. Reading from my current work, that's not going to work very well. So I pulled one out from the old days. It's called My Own Private Graceland. And I also quote here from the New York Times, an article, Mary Jinkston, late 78, cook for Elvis Presley. She died. And they quoted her nephew as saying that they had peanut butter and banana sandwiches at Graceland, and we had them too. Mr. Mosley, her nephew, said, and they were good. Well, Here's my own private Graceland. I split and toasted a white hot dog bun, slathered it with melting butter, watched its yellow soak into sweet bread stuff with a small yellow happy face spatula. I spread viscous gobs of peanut butter over each side of the Wonder Bun. I peel a banana, taking care to remove the fuzzy little dark nubbin at its end, something too personal to the banana to eat. The banana nestled in the warm, gooey bun. I added more peanut butter for aesthetics, ate it, and washed it down with pulpy OJ. Next time I said, while picking crumbs from my plate, I should use a whole wheat bun. It'd be so much healthier. That night, I dreamed of Elvis and wondered if I would die like him while sitting on the toilet. So I thought that was going to be funnier, but I don't know if we achieved that objective. Okay, oh, it's so sad. Summer in the time of Corona, back to the chat book. My armpits, they're hot pockets. They smell like August in the turning point of year when Northerners bought their first air conditioners. And my mother revolved like barbecue on a spit in her shady mausoleum, saying, I told you, it's getting hotter and I can't breathe in this air. I like to sweat, feel it trickle down my ribs, but never thought it had come to this. A semicolon in a viral pandemic sentence that says, you ain't seen nothing yet. Now arrive the climate clarions, trumpets of blare, come to declare. There are too many of us. So let's see, how are we doing? Oh, I forgot to push my timer. So can you wave at me or something, Leopoldo?
Just go until you feel done.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. I just might. Okay. This one's a little more personal. This is called My Last Summer on Mission Creek, which is where this entire chapbook was inspired. Runs through Kashmir near Wenatchee. This is the last time I'll play here, said Jerry J.F. Walker. My last summer on Mission Creek. Sumac leaves, stark and dark green, rustle summer winds. Creek burbles play. Their chronic laughter climbs our woody bank. Sunlight snakes through the cottonwoods, spotlights their wet shadows. Blue sky, cloudless again today, brightens my peppers and pears. Power lines run the ridge lines, sunned warm spider silk on Athena's breast. Flat farmlands nudge the feet of flashing Green Mountain's steepest pine. My life became more beautiful than I knew, and faster too. I spent it waiting for summer, yet missed it by inches most years. Phalluses, red and fuzzy, grow thick at the tips of dancing suma limbs. Regretless, they shine. Whoa, and Let's see. Where was it? Oh, okay, I'll just want a little more cheer and then I'll be done. Because, okay. This is called On Pulling Oneself Together with Coffee and Eggs. True story. This morning, I awaken early. I awaken early and walk. I awaken early and I walk to the market for coffee and eggs, at the Athenian, where I have eaten eggs and swallowed coffee and not coffee in mornings before, like so many mornings before morning, when the rain is not rain and the morning is not yet day, when the rain slicks the skin as a mist that is not rain. I will sit at a table at the Athenian where I can see the harbor, ferry slicing past and touch my tongue to coffee, my first coffee, and write these words, these very words, not words really, not words that remember the not rain. I will begin this day with these words, remembering so many days that have not been like this one, when the rain and the not rain and the coffee and the not coffee still waited the way they wait most mornings. Wait to touch the skin of my lips, touch my tongue and stir me slowly in some new old way, like today, this very blessed day. That's it. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So here's my poem, and the references are to the 1001 Nights, okay, and a little bit hidden here and there to Shakespeare as usual, Julius Caesar, okay. Self-opening doors. The doors open, slow, ponderous, none pushing, none pulling, yet open nevertheless. For Alibaba shouts, open sesame. America has doors of many kinds, many doors of each kind. Big doors guard entrepôts, small doors access to rooms, homes. All guard imagined treasure, big doors wealth beyond measure, small doors ongoing meetings or the bliss of a lover's kiss. Open sesame to America, a research proposal to NASA, a paper airplane flung into the flowing tide of air. New York, John F. Kennedy Airport. Wait, this room has only walls, no doors. Let me out of here. My treasures, wife and child are there. Calm down, wait and watch. Someone walks to a wall, a door appears magically, opens. Swift steps end my thrall. New York. Dear information, how do I get to LaGuardia? You take that bus over there. I nod, it's the Indian thing. Are you disputing me? No, ma'am, reply. Hastily drag my tail out of there. LaGuardia, we come. Flight is postponed to tomorrow. Porters upstairs, porters downstairs. Belong to different unions. On your own, between stairs. Lug 4 suitcases downstairs. One is full of pickles, hoarded like water, precious for marooned mariners. New York, resplendent night sky, room service, cheesecake, National Research Council courtesy. Never more Indian nod, never more cheesecake. What treasure brought America? Freedom to joke and be oneself, happy pursuit of several careers, property, and best of all, friends.
Great. Two short poems. born recently and only been through a couple of edits, so they're just toddlers. But all toddlers need to learn to walk. So that's my epigram for this week. I decided to be angry all day. Today I woke up and decided to be angry all day. Nothing personal or pathological, mind you, but like my older brother, I would marshal my anger into a platoon of special forces neurons who would then ride out on a crest of fear and power and tear apart nests of resistance, and I would rescue my day. I would seize gremlins of ennui and cunning, dismantle stubborn hedgerows with a whack, push thickets of doubt and indecision into the ditch, take all the riffraff out to the dumpster, and seize the day. Seize the fucking day. So I went to the cemetery to pick up my brother, an expert in such matters of focused anger, and together we strode toward battle, pounding each other's shoulders, checking our armor from tip to hilt. Oh, at last, we together again, ready for the good fight. That curious look sizzled again in his blue eyes. My God, he was always such a fearsome sight at such a time. Striding toward the din, strains of bagpipes o'er the hill, the blonde hairs on his muscular young arms waving in the wind. Timeless. He squatted down and gently fingered the soil, no doubt to check for firmness. As he did, his hand wandered over to a wilting daisy, rolling its petals gently between his fingers, and his eyes lifted in a squint. He gazed out over the field and slowly exhaled as he would, and I too leaned in to absorb the mystery, and as our hearts filled with gratitude, lost in this field of surprises, our anger dissolved, and we were doomed.
Thank you so much. Inspired by Laurel's form poems and Tito's coming apocalypse, I'm going to read a pantoum. Just to remind you, it's quatrains with the second and fourth lines of each stanza becoming the first and third lines of the next, and then the last line reflects back on the first. Pantoum Requiem. Garden teardrop leaves bear the weight of afterlife of ponderosa pines, blown by explosion of heat all the way north from California. Afterlife of ponderosa pines fills my lungs each breath, ash blown all the way from California for a month after the funeral pyre. Ash filled my lungs with each breath, ache with bitter aftertaste of death. A month after the ravaging pyre, stung my eyes with tears and smoke. Aching, bitter aftertaste of death, of creatures burned in the fire, sting my eyes with tears still. Smoke makes a dull haze dawn to sundown. Creatures burned in the fire turn garden green to dusty gray. Dull haze at dawn, gray pall at night, at sundown. Leave teardrops to bear the weight. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you, Tito and Laurel, for your wonderful readings. And I'm happy to hear you. I'm trying to decide what to read because, you know, it's Thanksgiving and I have a food poem from my new book called Gumbo Nights. Here's the new book with its extremely bright, almost psychedelic, but New Orleans masquerade cover. And then, but in honor of Laurel, I have to decide whether I should read a ghazal or a sestina. I don't know what I should do. I think I'll read the Gumbo Nights because it has to do with food, and all of them are in the poem. And this poem, Gumbo Nights, is not in exactly a form, but it has a way of hooking one sentence to the next. So the end of one sentence hooks to the next. So you'll hear that. But let me get a quick sip of water because, you know, gumbo Gumbo makes you thirsty. Gumbo nights. Move away from that table, you tease, as I help myself to a plate full of your Creole étouffée. You're going to end up wide as you are tall. All those evenings you chuckle at your own jokes as the gumbo shimmers with scallops and okra, shallots and filet, while I stir butter for the cornbread and splash a shot glass of burgundy into the squash chowder's slow ochre bubbles. Trouble's brewing, you smile, smoothing your hands over the bottle of budget Chardonnay as if it were a woman. Inside that thin woman, there's a fat woman fighting to get out. Out pops the cork with a satisfying thwack, to which I laugh my answer, popping my own cheek with a finger as you light the gallo jug candle with its fringed skirt of wax drippings, centerpiece of my thrift shop tablecloth. The kitchen walls lean in to listen, and I listen as Sarah Vaughan croons Lover Man on my small radio, almost a lullaby that winter when jazz is as new to me as Cape Cod's lilac dawns. Dawn is a voice still trembling in my throat, but Nina Simone's bent blue-violet notes soothe my body into believing in itself. Do I believe what you call the body's shy audacity as we sip from after-dinner jelly glasses, last of the Chardonnay smoky and pale, while you gaze at me, appraise me, and I gaze back, matching the gleam in my eye to yours? Your knock on my door on New Year's, weeks before, as I unpacked the gift-wrapped packets from a visit home, the same day one of your old lovers headed home after a week-long rendezvous. Through my wall, 2 sets of footsteps hollow on floorboards of your studio, echo receding down the wood plank steps. Thud falls on winter's frost-heavy path to the bus stop. Stop it, I almost told myself, but didn't, because Billie Holiday growled, "How could you?" to some double-dealing lover from her tiny big band stand inside my radio. The radio's lingering swing as I heard your steps retrace themselves, erase themselves from the walkway and wood plank stairs, canceling out all short-term memories. Forget that foolish week, you murmured, your face as I let you into my studio, haggard with bravado. Did we know the midnight hour had already tolled for us from the church steeple's pale melon clock face? Let's face the music and dance, cried the music in my head, ahead of yours for a change. A change gonna come, I know, cried Sam Cooke, a change the woman whose fury sent him out beyond the sky never could have known. What did we know then, as you stood up and came around my table to take me again as your lover? Lover man, oh, where can you be? Sobbed the jazz women on the radio as the woman I was then gave in and let you come, though I was already moving away from that table. Thank you.
I have a fairly new poem here that speaks to our times and times in the past. The Suitcase. In the autumn of our neighborhood, not far from the undressed Christmas tree, someone has planted a giant statue of the American Gothic couple. They look much the same as Grant Wood's painting in the 30s. She with pulled back hair, prim collar, and a handmade muslin smock. He in a white shirt, overalls, and pitchfork. They remind us remind us of resilience in sparse times. I want to tell our children we are not prey to foreign actors. We will refuse an authoritarian ride. I would like to tell them democracy will survive. Their votes will matter. We are strong. I wish to tell them our Senate cares and won't compromise us for the sake of their jobs and party. I hear bloodthirsty extremists spout lies. I want children to ask questions in their search for truth. The American Gothic statue endures seasons on a patch of dirt surrounded by manicured grass, dry as a harvested cornfield. The couple's gaze toward tomorrow, unwavering. Beside them, someone has placed a battered suitcase.